I see him clicking now. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good.
Good.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. And it looks like we are live and ready for our first sales meeting of 2023. Thank you guys so much for being here. We are just thrilled about our topic today. I know we had a lot of really good feedback as I was, sharing this out in the forum and via text. We're super excited. So let's get started. The first thing is always to make sure that you have signed in for sales meeting. We have a giveaway today from our sponsor, which we will get to know in just a little bit. That will be a $50 Amazon gift card. Who doesn't want that? But we are also from Silvercreek. We are going to be giving away a 2-month coaching slot in Rick Gray, which hopefully most of you know who Rick Gray is. He's fantastic. He has a coaching program that he coaches agents from around the country. They meet via Zoom twice a month. And we are giving away a 2-month slot in his coaching group. So that is from Silvercreek. So extra exciting today. If you are in person, you get 2 entries into the giveaway. So make sure you sign in. If you are on our live stream, thank you so much for being here. You get 1 entry. Make sure you comment your name. Please comment your full name. Some of you, like I say every time, some of you have some really cute handles, but we don't know who Ski Bunny 21 is. So make sure that you put your full name so that we can include you in our drawing. And I will jump on either later today or tomorrow and announce our giveaway winners. Sound good?
How do we log in?
Oh, you don't have to because you're here.
Oh, okay.
You're good. We will also be sharing contact information for our speaker and for our sponsor so that you can connect after the fact as well. Okay, today, our broker moment, you are going to see in the Silvercreek Connection email. So, in fact, she's in here to say hello. I was just telling them to make sure they read their Silvercreek Connection email today. Did you want to say anything else? Nope. Krista says, Happy New Year.
For you in the meeting and on
Right, it'll be.
So just watch the video.
That email will come out today. Usually comes out on Monday, but with a long weekend, we postponed that 1 day for this week. So if you are not receiving the connection email in your inbox on Mondays, first check your spam and see if maybe it's going there. Mark it not spam if that's the case. Otherwise, please contact me or Rebecca, and we will make sure that you're getting this email. It is the primary source of communication and information from the brokerage. So updates and announcements from our leadership team, special events happening, opportunities, new product releases to help and support you in your marketing and your business. The primary place you're going to find all of that is in the email. So make sure you're looking through that. There are videos in there, but also we try to do a text recap so you can just peruse quickly if you need to. Good? Okay, awesome. As for announcements, want to always share one of our resources for you and make sure that you're taking full advantage of all the opportunities you have here at Silvercreek. So today, we're talking about the Silvercreek Tribune. Raise your hand if you know what the Silvercreek Tribune is. Oh, okay, we're like 50%, I like it. So every month, our marketing team, they write blog articles, content pieces. And these live on the Idaho Minute blog that we talked about at the last sales meeting. See how I'm building progression here? Those content pieces get turned into a newsletter template that you can use to send out to your database. Every month, a new template comes out. You can customize it to you. It opens in MailChimp, which is a third-party program. There is no cost for MailChimp if you have less than 2,000 email subscribers or people on your email list. So very easy, turnkey. Is it easy the first time you do it? Ralia says yes. She says, thank you. Yes, it is easy. Sometimes, if you're in there and you're playing around with it, maybe it's a little challenging. We have training videos for it. You can also come to Open Tech Hour any Wednesday at 1 o'clock, and we can help you get that set up and operational. If you are not currently sending out email communication to your database, or if you do not have a database list built, I am issuing that to you as your goal for 2023. You don't even have to set your own goals. Just come hang out with me. I'll tell you what your goals are. It is such a turnkey, free opportunity that if you're not taking advantage of it, it's a missed opportunity. So let's get you guys plugged in and staying in front of your sphere. We are finding the agents that have been most successful through this change in our market over the last 6-8 months. They are the ones who are really nurturing their sphere, staying in contact, following up, being present. So we want to encourage you to really plug in, and we have all the things ready for you. Good. Thank you. Okay, perfect. Moving on to our next item, some upcoming classes. So you're here today for sales meeting. We've got open tech hour tomorrow for any of your tech or Silvercreek resource needs. Thursday, I am teaching a business planning class. How timely for the first week of January. If you've not started your business planning, please plan to join. That will be live in the Mediation classroom, also via live stream. And then Friday, we have agent orientation. So if you're new to Silvercreek, or if you've recently exited a team and have not watched orientation or attended, please come. This is going to lower your frustration and help you feel like you have the resources available to be successful. Next week, we've got 2 great CE classes with Elizabeth Hume, and next Thursday, Lux VT class certification with Liz Comer. Lux VT is our most recent release for you guys. It is a luxury advertising partnership to help you push out your luxury listings to national and international marketing sites. So if you're looking to get in the Wall Street Journal or in the Robb Report or Mansion Global or internationally, this is what you want to be plugging into. You can check that out before attending. Check that out on the Silvercreek Toolbox. Click on Silvercreek Media and then Lux VT, and you can read all about it. Any questions? Okay. Perfect. Our next sales meeting is coming up 2 weeks from today. We have Mark Prince. He is on the leadership team at the Mike Brown Group. He's going to be teaching on something prospecting related, also very timely, right? We try to do a few of these a year just to, reset the wheels of prospecting and get new ideas and really help you stay consistent in your prospecting. So join us for that. That's going to be excellent. All right, and now we are going to turn a few moments over to JJ Astorkia, our mortgage and home loan partner, soon to be Bluebird Home Loans.
Yeah.
JJ.
Awesome. Do I need the mic?
Oh, yes. There you go. And you can hold it if you want, or you can.
All right.
What are you talking about?
So let's do the evidence of success.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, Happy New Year, everybody. Excited to be here and continue to talk about all the great reasons there are to be a buyer right now. We're going to be highlighting a lot of evidence of success here in the new year, because it's really important that we get the information out of what others are having success with. So this is an example. You guys all have a flyer, and those on the live stream, it is on the screen. So this was another Silvercreek agent that got really aggressive. And this is a good point. Don't be afraid to make an offer because there are sellers willing to negotiate and take kind of crazy offers. When she first told me what they were going to do, I was kind of like, wow, that's amazing. Listed at $520. This is the story. Offer price was $480 and a 6% seller concession for a rate buy down. So effectively $68,000, almost $70,000 lower than the list price, right? Seems like crazy. You're going to get that. I'm not going to respond. My sellers are offended. It's not happening as much. So they did counter. Counter offer from the seller was at $520, which was the original list price, but giving that basically $30,000 concession. They went back again, kept at them. $500,000 is where they landed with the 6% or $30,000 rate buy down. So why is this so important? These folks wanted to get into the house quick, and we had a buy down basically from a 6.75 interest rate down to 4.875. You guys have been hearing a lot about temporary buy downs, 3-2-1s, 2-1 buy downs. This is a permanent 30-year fixed interest rate buy down. This is not going to be something that we probably even have to refinance in the near future. They used that $30,000 to save, and you can just kind of go all the way down to the bottom there, $477 a month. So it is important that reduction in price. Psychologically, that's what all of our buyers want, right? They want this amazing deal. They want to really, get that seller down as much as possible on price. They were able to do that and get the buy down. So it is kind of 50-50 if you can have one or the other. Every situation's different, and we will go through a consultation with the buyer to understand which is better. But if you can get those rate buy downs, I mean, almost $500 a month in savings on a payment. So it got this basically. It was a son helping his mom buy a home and helped with the down payment. She's moving in across the street. We did it in 11 business days. So we used our quick close guarantee to do that, guaranteeing the seller that we would have it done in 15. We got her in there right before Christmas. So huge win. And that kind of leads into any questions on that? Any thoughts? This is not the only one. I was going to bring a handful of examples, but I figured we would just highlight one. If you have buyers that are looking to make offers that need to be aggressive, one of the things about this on the permanent buy down is you are qualifying that buyer at that lower interest rate. So when you're hearing temporary buy downs, the 3-2-1s, the 2-1 buy downs, those have a place as well, but you have to qualify that buyer at the market rate. So if you have a buyer that's trying to get into a price point that is a little higher than what they can really qualify for, the permanent rate buy down can get them in there so that they can actually get that debt to income ratio down.
Expand on that with the 3-2-1, they would qualify at the highest rate.
Exactly. So they have to qualify if we use this example at 6.75 on a market rate, that's what they have to qualify at, even if their rate is going to be 3 points lower, 3.75 to start, 4.75, 5.75 in those first 3 years. So yes. Yeah, good question. So how does the quick close guarantee work? Basically, there's a flyer here also on the screen, $5,000 to the seller if we don't close in 15 business days. This is a fully pre-approved, full documentation up front. Buyer, no contingency to sell a house. There's a full set. If you flip it over, the attorneys got their hands on it for sure. So there's lots of legalese on the back of why it wouldn't apply. But honestly, we've been using this. We started this about 1.5 years ago when our buyers were really having a hard time getting their offers accepted, right? So it allowed them to stand out from 5 other offers that were pretty similar. Closing quickly, that seller liked that. It was very similar to cash. Well, fast forward to today where we're very much in a buyer's market, right? Well, I was kind of thinking the quick close probably won't need to be anything that we use. Well, it's really coming into play a lot on these aggressive offers, right? Hey, we're beating up that seller for this, that, and the other thing. We're trying to get all of them. Well, we're going to give you something as well, telling you that we can close quickly. We'll guarantee that. So that gives that peace of mind to that seller that we're going to get it done. How does this all work? Well, we need buyers that are fully pre-approved. So the lead intake tool is what I call it, basically a lead referral form. So take out your phone, which is usually not what a speaker says, right? But this there's a little QR code right on the sheet. Basically, this will bring up just a little web form that you can use on your phone. If you have a lead, this is the most efficient way to get that lead to us. Why would you do this? Why wouldn't you just text us their information or have them call us? It increases the conversion ratio for you and for us to get them moving along, to get an application, get pre-approved, get them out there shopping for a home, and allows us to really take control and be proactive in following up and helping you guys to get that lead to be a buyer. They all flow together. The more often we do this, the higher conversion ratio to get them fully pre-approved, which allows us to do this, which allows us to have success stories like this, right? So it just all flows together in why we have a process the way we do things. So any questions on any of that? Thoughts?
So quick to close the loans, do you have underwriters here locally?
Our underwriters are within our company. They don't sit in offices here, but yes, they're very much in tune with what we're doing. The key on these is that we're ordering appraisal day one. So when you read through that, that is a sunk cost for the buyer, very similar to an inspection cost, right? So they have to think of it that way, but it's allowing their offer to get accepted. And I mean, just to be honest, we don't have as many loans going on these days, so we're able to close quickly, and we prioritize these above the others so that they can get, you know, moving quickly. We have one that just came in. They want to close next Friday. We just got the contract. It was late last week, but we're going to try to make that happen for next week. There's some timing pieces in there that you all probably know with TRID, where we've got to get the closing disclosure out. All of those things take time. So you have to have them fully pre-approved. And honestly, it's selfishly for us too, it's that carrot for the buyer so that they're fully engaged, right? It's like, hey, if we need something, it's not, I'll get that to you on Wednesday. It's like, I need that in an hour. You know, if we need one more pay stub or one more, you know, bank statement or something like that, they know that they need to get that stuff to us quickly. We're all working together. So that's why it works so well. Good question. Yeah. We don't right now. We're definitely looking for a loan officer. If anyone has a loan officer that they really like and speaks Spanish, I would love to add a Spanish-speaking loan officer. I have some referrals that are outside of our company, but we don't have someone on board right now. Yeah. Anything else? Feels a little weird holding this up. It's so small. All right. Well, if you have any questions, all the contact information is there. Definitely use that referral form and just reach out anytime if we can help you. Thanks.
Thank you, JJ. And I think it just really speaks to JJ and his team and their organization, their level of customer service, that they can close loans in this time frame. It's remarkable. And just a reminder, any Silvercreek agent who has a buyer who closes with OneTrust Home Loans currently, soon to be Bluebird Home Loans, your buyer will receive a 1-year home warranty for no cost. And that is something that we are offering going forward. That will be the standard for all Silvercreek loans closed. Yeah. So anyway.
And if it's new construction, we'll just go for year 2 because the builder typically covers year 1. So
for those online, so if it's new construction, the builder covers year 1, and so the home warranty we provide will be for year 2. So thank you, JJ.
All right,
appreciate you.
JJ, on Facebook, I saw that you can learn to speak Spanish in 6 weeks.
Oh, perfect. Done. Easy. Okay. Eric, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep, let me turn up our volume. Okay, we are going to do our sponsor spot here. We have Eric Nelson from Old Republic Home Protection. And he's just going to give us a brief overview of his services. And Eric, thank you so much for the Amazon gift card. I shared that earlier in our meeting, and we're very thankful.
Wonderful. Well, Happy New Year, everybody. Thank you for having me on. I don't think my face should ever be this big, to be honest, though. So I know I only have a few minutes, so I want to kind of just go over some things about our company. So as Krista mentioned, my name's Eric with Old Republic Home Protection. We've been in the home warranty business for just over 50 years, so we are not new to the game. And I wanted to talk to you real quick about our benefits and how they can help you, but mostly as a partnership with the agents. So I'm going to share my screen real quick. I just want to give you a couple of visual aids. So I talked about partnership real quick, and the biggest thing and the most important thing to us is us partnering with our agents. Ideally, we want to help be a resource for you to grow your business. And I wanted to share just a couple quick things about our plans and our resources that are beneficial to you. The first thing is our agent toolbox, and this is probably our agent's favorite thing because you can create a toolbox account. It takes about 45 seconds. and you have access to all of your home warranties that you place with customers. So you can see the status of everything. If there's a claim in progress, you can kind of see the status of that, and have an opportunity to touch base with a past client and be a continued resource for them. The other thing that we really provide is our marketing materials. So in your toolbox, you have a marketing tools section. And this is an example of some of the free marketing materials that are available to each of our agents that create a Toolbox account. And Toolbox accounts are completely free, no cost to the agent to do that. You're able to do several different things, just listed postcards, open house registry sign-in sheets, just some things that will help you market yourself a little bit faster and easier without having to spend too much time, digital creation of materials and flyers. As far as our plans, we offer 3 different plans. One of the things I personally love about our plans is really in the name. We call our plans the freedom plans. And ironically, I love about that is that we truly give your customer the freedom to choose who they want to come and assess a repair or get a quote or a bid. We definitely have our own network of professionals that we can send out to diagnose an HVAC issue or roof shingle issue, those kinds of things. But as you're probably aware with supply chain and things like that, sometimes it takes a little longer than we like to get things repaired. And when it needs to be repaired, it needs to be repaired right away. So if a customer knows a vendor that they trust, they can use that vendor just like they can use ours. And that's one of our agents' real favorite things, is really having that freedom to choose who the customer can work with. Our introductory plan starts only $295, another great thing. And our service trade call or diagnosis fee is only $75. I believe it's probably one of the lowest in the industry as well. I'm almost done, I promise. The other thing is the marketing again. So there's also, outside of digital marketing, we provide free print marketing materials as well. So we can actually mail those directly to you. The first one is yard sign writers. If your homeowner is offering a home warranty, you can advertise that right on the yard sign. We also have open house table tents that you can utilize in an open house. It talks about the warranty and why it's beneficial. I know you guys are just talking about it, being a buyer's market, so it's a great time to really be introducing home warranties. And on top of that, we have free seller's coverage. Probably the number 2 favorite thing for our agents and partners is that the free seller's coverage is truly free. It's for up to a 6-month listing period, and it will cover certain systems and failures and things like that during the listing period. So the best thing is, you have your seller trying to sell their home, and the last thing they want to do is, replace an HVAC or refrigerator type system. So this, plan can actually be put into place and will cover it for free. Even if the seller decides, I don't want to sell the house anymore, couldn't find a buyer, get the offer that I want, and they use the plan, and maybe we paid $500 for something. We truly are not going to come back after the seller or anybody for the $500. It's something that we do as a benefit to you as the agent and your customer, and just the cost of doing business to us. And then last but not least, this is a free gift to you on top of the Amazon gift card that Kristen just told you about. For everyone who attended today, just as a thank you, I'm going to be sending you a free trade call fee coupon that you can give to your customer. And that covers the $75 trade call fee. So if they have an issue with the system, need someone to come out and diagnose it, that does cost $75 to the property owner or the policy holder. But we will give you this to give to your customer so you can look like the rockstar agent that you are, and you're basically paying for or covering their first trade call fee for them for free.
Awesome.
So I know that was a lot to cover. I wanted to kind of do a little bit more high-level overview. I know Kristen said that she would share my contact information, so I really appreciate that. And I welcome the opportunity to get with you individually and answer any questions you might have as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Eric. We appreciate you being here so much.
Thanks again for having us.
Happy New Year.
You too.
Okay, lots of good stuff today. Let's move on though to what we're very, very excited about, and that is our speaker. So, come on. We are honored today to have Becky Anderson here. She is an attorney here locally. She's worked in multiple states, been in the business over 30 years, and she has a very strong practice around mediation and conflict resolution, wants to offer us some tips, some insight today. And like I said, if you saw my Facebook Live I did last week, this could be the sales meeting that saves a deal for you in 2023. And I really mean that, because when we run into these issues in transactions, if it's between a buyer and a seller, or maybe between an agent and a client, I mean, Krista knows she's working on these probably every day. And the approach that you take, the skills that you have, and the resources you have to solve problems is so critical. So with that, Becky, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to hand over the clicker to you. And yes, welcome.
Hi. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. And thank you, Kristen and Krista and everyone, Rebecca, for arranging this. I have lots of friends at Silvercreek. I have Pat. I have Liz Allen, my best friend, Dave Nielsen, who I just admire so much. And I've decided this is the best company to work for. Can I have a job here? You have Amazon gift cards. You have all sorts of great people giving you great information. So today, I'd like to start with a little background on myself. Let's see if I can figure this out. A little bit about myself. I am a commercial real estate attorney. I do a lot of residential stuff when it's higher stakes. So probably in this market, you know, anything that you have would be considered higher stakes, I imagine. But I am a commercial real estate attorney. I've been practicing over 30 years. In 2007, something really strange happened. The recession hit, and all my deals, you know, we do deals as attorneys, just stopped in their tracks. And it was because the recession hit, and my deals all of a sudden turned into disputes. And I thought, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? A lot of my counterparts just shut their doors and went into other fields. But I decided to create a dispute resolution practice because I realized what my clients needed was to change their disputes back into deals. They were, you know, you had landlords with tenants defaulting and tenants not wanting to pay the rent. It was a mess, loans defaulting. And so I started doing dispute resolution. And through my practice, I've learned that, you know, mediation really is the way to go when you have a dispute, because it's, when you do mediation, both parties are invested in the outcome. So if you have a dispute, actually, let's go back. Let's go back into why disputes happen. I'm sure all of you have encountered disputes in your deals. Is that a fair statement? Can you raise your hand if you have? Disputes, any dispute. Okay. So you can have disputes over the obligation to close, or over the earnest money deposit, over the commission. The scariest type of dispute for me, I think, representing someone, is when the seller has someone coming back to them after the fact. And the broker usually gets involved without the agent, because if you're representing the buyer who thinks that there's been, you know, misrepresentation or failure to disclose something material, as an attorney, you're going to go after the seller and the agent if the agent knew anything. So that's where agents get sucked into all this. And that's not good. I've had a lot of high level complex disputes which involve real estate agents. You know, buyers discovering structural defects post-close, and it might be $1 million dispute or $2 million. You know, I just had one which I settled where an ADU wasn't properly permitted, and the seller was also the agent, and the buyers were furious. And anyway, we just settled that, but that was a prime example of something that can happen where permitting isn't accomplished. Another one is the sale of a multi-million-dollar commercial asset where the buyer failed to terminate during the due diligence period. And by gosh, this has never happened to me, but after the due diligence period was up and after the contract period was up, the buyer never acknowledged that the contract was terminated. And so we had to go into litigation over that. Anyway, there's more examples, and I'm sure, you know, some of you have some unique examples, but I want to kind of ask you, okay, if a dispute happens in your deal, what's your go-to, who's your go-to person? What's your go-to response? Anybody? Krista. Oh, poor Krista. Okay.
She lives here.
Yeah. So the broker takes the. So Krista, you probably have attorneys that you deal with, I would assume.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And they're on your team, which is good. It's good to have attorneys on your team. But and most people's response is call a lawyer. In my experience, because I am a lawyer, so I'm called all the time for stuff like this. In my experience, people pick up the phone and call their lawyer. They wouldn't necessarily think to call a mediator. Now, Oregon, I'm licensed in Oregon, California, and Idaho, so 3 states. So I get to see the differences between all the states. And Idaho, frankly, is a little backwards because Oregon has a mediation clause right there in its contracts, in its standard form contracts. Is anyone familiar with that? The Oregon, no one's licensed here, okay, in Oregon. It says if there's a dispute, you have to go to mediation. So now you can put this in your contracts. I don't know how easy or hard that is to do, but buyers and sellers can obviously add a mediation clause to their contracts. We don't have it in the standard form right now.
Question?
Yes.
Did we have at one time mediation or arbitration in the contracts? At one time here in Idaho?
We currently have arbitration language in there for earnest money disputes.
And arbitration is very different from mediation because arbitration avoids the court process, but still is very procedural and very, it's kind of like you avoid the litigation, but you're kind of in a subset of litigation that's it's not mediation. Anyway, most people are not experts in resolving disputes, but mediators are. That's what mediators do. They go through training, they go through practical experience. For me, I think it's, I have experience as a mediator, but also as a lawyer resolving disputes, because oftentimes people will hire me as a lawyer, not a mediator, and say, here, just do a workout for me. And so I end up representing one party and bringing in the mediation strategies to work out a resolution. But regardless of how you name it, there are dispute resolution experts, and that's what a mediator would be. So has anyone here worked with a mediator? Oh my gosh, how about you guys online? Is anyone, I guess we can't get feedback online. You have?
But she was not a lawyer.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so you've worked with a mediator who was not a lawyer, okay. So there are mediators come in different forms, and I'll go into that in a few minutes. But you're the only one who's worked with a mediator, okay. It's a good thing we're having this. Huh?
And Becky,
yeah.
Rebecca is moderating the chat.
Okay, oh good.
On the live stream.
So has anyone responded that they've worked with a mediator before?
Teresa Denham.
Oh, yay, okay, okay. So what mediation offers is someone who has expert dispute resolution skills. Lawyers, your average run-of-the-mill lawyer is not necessarily going to have all these dispute resolution skills, especially litigators, because litigators, they're in it for the fight. And I don't want to overgeneralize, but it's true. Litigators are in it for the fight. They're in it to win and not to lose. And so when you posture a dispute that way with litigation, someone's going to win, someone's going to lose. You're not really turning a dispute into a good outcome for everyone because someone has to lose. Mediation is less expensive because when you start litigating, it's extraordinarily expensive. Has anyone here been in a lawsuit or know anyone in a lawsuit? Okay, oh God, terrible. Lawsuits are difficult. Yeah, and we'll go into that in a minute. Mediation is a very safe venue to explore options for the resolution. And the reason is different mediators have different approaches. I prefer non-binding mediation because to get the parties into a room where they're going to start talking about workouts or settlement options, if you say it's non-binding, they're going to feel free to do that. If you say it's binding, it's kind of like putting all your fate in the hands of some mediator who you don't know. So I don't like binding mediation. I prefer non-binding. And what you do with non-binding is you bring the parties together, you work out a good workout plan, a solution, and then the attorneys can draft up the actual settlement agreements, but it's non-binding, and you can usually, get over the finish line with a deal in a non-binding context. The mediator is completely neutral, doesn't favor one side or the other. I will say that if you're a lawyer mediator like I am, we can't help but evaluate parties' positions, and that's a good thing. So if a mediator comes in and says, well, I think a judge will rule against you here, that's really important information for that party to hear. So a mediator is neutral, but not necessarily neutral as to the facts. A mediator will develop opinions as to the facts, and you want that. You want to know the strengths and weaknesses of your position. If a mediator is a transactional lawyer like me, they're very experienced in building deals. So for example, I just mediated something between some beneficiaries of a trust and the trustor and the trustee, and it was a mess. It was a family feud and just a mess. And there was no easy path out. It's not like you could say, okay, we'll pay them $20,000, call it good. No easy path out. So the path out was actually structuring a whole new trust. And we had to do that to make everyone happy, but it worked. It was good for everybody. It takes longer than just, paying someone $20,000 and calling it good. But usually mediation, if you're going to actually create a good outcome for everyone, you have to invest in it. It does take some time. But at the end of the day, instead of paying 2 lawyers to do it, and you don't know what slant they have, if you pay a mediator to resolve a conflict and both parties are sharing the cost, it's pretty economical. And then you can build deals if you need to. Okay, so we talked about alternative being litigation in a win-lose game. The price of litigation is tremendous. The cost is tremendous. The time is tremendous. The energy that it takes to participate in litigation. I mean, Krista, I'm sure you would rather, instead of being deposed, you'd much rather be, helping someone close a deal, right? Well, when you're sucked up in litigation, you can't be doing the things you want to be doing. You can't be closing on deals. You're trying to win or save yourself from losing in this deal. It's very time consuming. So there's a huge lost opportunity cost. And the biggest thing I think is you never know what a judge will decide. Never, ever. I mean, I've been so surprised. And the outcome is totally outside your control. If you go to a mediator, both parties have complete control over the outcome. No one can tell you what to agree to and not. It has to be a voluntary thing. So mediation is great because it's a safe haven for parties to come together and try and create a good outcome for everyone, something that's voluntary for everyone. I like to think of litigation as being, rowing a raft upstream. I mean, you're fighting someone who wants to, prevail over you. You're spending the cost, the time, and the energy. It's just like going upstream here. If you go downstream in a raft, then you're leveraging, the momentum of the water. Just like in mediation, you're leveraging the desire of each party to want to come to a good solution for them. So it's really a dramatic difference. Now, when you do mediation, the goal has to be win-win, and this is always hard because when parties come to mediation, one wants to win over the other. And I do mediation in the, in the context of, cases that are in the middle of litigation. Sometimes it's pre-litigation, but either way, the parties usually can't stand each other. And one wants to win or one wants to take the other one down. And it can get pretty nasty. But the goal in mediation is win-win. That's the only way you can do it, is have a win-win outcome. So you have to analyze, to move a party from feeling like they need to win to a win-win outcome. You really need to analyze, okay, how much time, money, and energy is being spent on this dispute? Is it really worth all your time, money, and energy to take this person down? Or is it better spent creating a win-win solution for everyone? And usually people can see the logic of that. Mediation does not work with bullies. So there are times when it doesn't work. And if any of you have any preconceived notion of, a bully, it's kind of like someone who's like an army tank who is not open to solutions, kind of shoots missiles out, defends against everything. Bullies do not do well in mediation. It's a waste of time. So if someone is in litigation or going to litigation and I think, they're just acting like a bully, I won't take it on. So I only take on disputes where I think we can go over the finish line and get a deal. What is our timing? Because I don't think I want to jump with. How much time do I have?
All day.
10:43.
All day? Okay. And I have till when?
11.
11. Okay, I'm going to skip this. Okay, so not all mediators are alike. There's lawyer versus non-lawyer, especially in the family law area. There are some non-lawyer mediators who are very good because family law is a very limited area. If you have a dispute involving anything that you would be involved in, real estate, you probably want a lawyer as a mediator because you want someone to be able to say, okay, this is in your favor, this isn't, let's structure a deal this way, here's your path out. So it probably doesn't work to have a non-lawyer for anything that you would all deal with, except for family law and your personal lives. Litigator versus transactional lawyer, a lot of mediators are retired judges and litigators, and they have their approach. Mine is definitely different because I have a transactional approach. I'm so used to building deals in my practice, and I don't like litigation. So my approach is going to be much more deal making, but you will have judges and retired lawyers who are very good at mediation, and they have a different approach. I do follow up after the mediation session because I find that most people cannot go from just the dark side to the light side in one mediation session. They can't go from just loathing each other and wanting to take each other out to, let's work out a deal. They can't really finish that up in one 8-hour session. So I find that in most of my mediation cases, I'm working after the mediation session with the lawyers or with the parties directly to get them over the finish line. And it usually takes a couple weeks. I don't know that other mediators do that. And I think that follow-up is essential. I think that can increase the success rate of mediation. My success rate is 98% in conflict resolution, which I'm really proud of. I don't take on anything I don't think I can take over the finish line. And it's hard. It's hard. Lots of these workouts, especially when I'm not the mediator, I'm an attorney, they can take months because they are so high stakes, so complex, so many emotions. Anyway, but there's a real upside to mediation, and there are experts who can walk you through it. I promised some strategies for dispute resolution. So before I go on to that, are there any questions on mediation?
So you only deal in commercial real estate?
Oh, I do. So I do residential. What I don't do is if someone says, well, I want to buy a home, can you, represent me in buying a home? I usually don't do that unless it's a special client. But if someone comes to me and says, oh, I bought a home and the seller misrepresented something, then I'll get involved in that. Yeah, I just don't do the contracts that you draft every day. That's what I don't do. Yeah. Are there any other questions about mediation? Let me walk you through just a quick mediation session, what it might look like. If you have, I just had this one which involved a trust. And what you do is you bring both parties together with their attorneys if it's in litigation. And I usually start all parties out together and say, here are the ground rules, here's my role, here's your role, here's what the expectations should be. And then I split them up. And then I separately caucus with each party. And I say, well, I read your statement. I think you've got some strong points here, but this is really your area of exposure. And have you analyzed the cost of litigating? Have you analyzed the time expense, the risk of losing? And I work on them so that they can really get to have a strong sense of really where they stand in the dispute. Then I'll go to the other side and I'll say the same thing. I'll say, well, here's your statement. I get this, but this fact doesn't work in your favor. Settlement in this fashion would be good. What do you want out of this? And then pretty soon you go back and forth and start building what is a good resolution for them. And who knows what it might look like. I never know when I start my mediation, I never know what the outcome will be, because it depends on who's willing to do what. And as it turns out, I'm surprised 9 times out of 10. Sometimes it's just as easy as an apology. You know, sometimes, I mean, you hear about stories, divorces where they fight over the vacuum cleaner. This really happens. It really happens. And so sometimes it's an apology. Sometimes someone's lost face, and it's just so easy and cheap to get to that if you figure out that that's what the person wants. And if you don't get the apology, they're not going to settle. They're just not. They're in it for the principle of thing. So it's a process. It's really fun. I love it because I love people. I love complex emotions. I have 4 daughters, and so I've, spent years, years working through all these complex, emotions. And so I like that. I love it. And I love the feeling of setting people on their way without the baggage of a dispute. Just love it. I love it. I love working with lawyers on this too, because the lawyers, especially if they're litigators, they really, really, at the end of the day, they want to get rid of the case that, they might lose. So it's a great experience. Yeah.
We have 3 questions.
Okay.
Teresa Denham asked, do you draw trust and help develop those to prevent exposure in the future?
I don't do trust, but my partner does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tammy Sins asked, if we have a client that wants an attorney to review her contract with the builder prior to signing it, is that something that she can do?
So, yeah, something that someone in my firm can. That's just attorney stuff, but yeah, my firm can do all that stuff. Mm-hmm.
And then last question, does the court have to appoint her, or can anyone hire her services?
Oh, that's such a good question. Okay, so the court can appoint a mediator, and I've been appointed by a court, to mediate some cases. That's when a case is in litigation and the judge is like, I'm sick of dealing with this. Let's see if a mediator can solve it. And so the judges just look down a list and choose a mediator. And then as a mediator, you just get a notice saying, okay, you've been appointed to mediate this case. So that definitely happens. But I do a lot of mediation before it gets to court. And I kind of call that preemptive mediation. I mean, it would be much better to involve a mediator before you file the action. Once you file the action, you've invested time and money and your ego, which is huge. The ego is huge in an outcome. So it's much better to hire a mediator when the dispute first arises. You can also consider facilitation, which I do. Facilitation is a step down from mediation, but if you see some conflict brewing and people aren't communicating properly, it's not really appropriate for a mediator, but you need some help here, then, you can hire a facilitator, or I'll do it, and just to facilitate the communications before it goes a step up to dispute.
So if you're mediating before court, so where does that take place? Would that be at your office or
it's
a neutral place?
Yeah, my office. Mm-hmm. I've had to do it on Zoom, which is hard, but I can do it on Zoom. So if the court says, okay, I want the parties to mediate, then the court gives us a deadline, and then we have to get it together and do it before the deadline, basically, or ask for an extension. So, and then I, as the mediator, go back to the court and I say, okay, I've held this mediation, here's the settlement. The settlement, what the settlement looks like is it's usually a 1 or 2 page bullet point memorandum from me that the parties sign. And it says, okay, here's what we agreed to. And so the court knows what the parties have agreed to. But I always put in there it's subject to execution of documents that have been approved by their legal counsel, because as a mediator, I'm not allowed to give legal advice or act as a lawyer in my mediator hat. So I can kind of act as a lawyer by saying, okay, I don't think you have a good position here. This is a strong position. I can do that, but I'm not drafting documents for the parties. I would love to be able to, but that's beyond the scope of a mediator. So I always make the settlement subject to the attorney's review of any final agreements. And that's why it's non-binding, because if the attorneys start drafting, a new trust or a settlement agreement and there's a hiccup, then I don't want to make them, that would be horrible to bind them to something that isn't foolproof, right? So I don't do that. But I will be there for them if they reach a hiccup and they're like, okay, we need to go back into mediation and figure out this hiccup. Does that make sense? Yeah. I use escrows a lot in settling my mediation or my disputes, because oftentimes if you're doing a huge workout, you have lots of parties and lots of cases, complaints, maybe 3 cases at once. You have, agreements to work out. And so I use an escrow and payments to be exchanged. I use an escrow for settlement. So I actually have settlement escrows in big, huge, complicated workouts. And that's a really good tool. Okay, so does anyone want some quick strategies to help you with your own dispute resolution?
Sure.
Yeah? Okay, and feel free to ask me any more mediation questions, but this is a 2-part presentation. So strategies. These are some of my top strategies. Strategy 1, communicate a lot. It's amazing how just a quick communication can prevent a lot of problems. Just quick, a 1-liner, a text, anything. The more you communicate to let people know where you stand, what their expectations should be, the better. And it's no different from, if you're going to be 20 minutes late to something, calling and say, I'm delayed, I'm going to be 20 minutes late, versus showing up 20 minutes late. If you show up 20 minutes late, people are going to make assumptions about you. If you communicate and say, well, I'm in traffic, blah, 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 they're not going to make those assumptions. It's that principle, in any situation, helps diffuse and avoid conflict. So that's my first tip. It's obvious, but it's not, people don't do it enough. So I put it on here. Dilute it down. I teach a course at BSU. I'm an adjunct professor because I'm an artist too. And I teach a course called The Art of Conflict Resolution. And I love it because I teach conflict resolution through the painting process. And it's really fun because people learn conflict resolution through watercolor painting. And this part is the funnest because they learn to dilute things down with water when they paint. And if you dilute statements down in your brain, so that you really, really think about what you say, because you can't take back what you say, then you'll be much more protected against, really bad conflict. In other words, if you think about what you're thinking about someone, it may be awful, but no one knows your thoughts. So you can think whatever you want about anyone. It's fine. It's just totally fine. But what you say, if you dilute it down, then you're fine. You're probably fine. If you say what you think and you don't have a filter and you don't dilute it down, and don't we all know people like that? I certainly do. And I just look at the damage caused by people not having that filter, not diluting it down. I look at the damage caused, and it would all be avoidable if people just stop and think, okay, how could I dilute this down? So, can anyone think of an inflammatory statement? Okay, well, I thought of one. Yeah, do you have one? No. No one has an inflammatory statement?
We're nervous.
Pat, I know you have one. Pat, you must have one.
Well, one would be is that you were dishonest.
You were dishonest. Okay, that's a really good one. That's an accusation. You were dishonest. And maybe the person was dishonest, but you were dishonest. A different way to say that would be, well, I looked at this and it appears that this fact is true. That's a different way of saying you were dishonest. So that's diluting it down. That's taking an accusation, diluting it down, saying the same thing, but not in a confrontational way. Strategy number 3 is lean on the facts. It's so funny how people don't lean on the facts when the facts are your friends. Facts are so obviously critical. And an example of this is when my girls were doing soccer, there were 4 of them in club soccer, and it started driving me crazy because all I did was support their soccer. I didn't have time for myself. I think we were spending $20,000 a year on soccer. We weren't building up college accounts. I felt like this was out of balance. So for years, I would say to my husband at the time, all we do is spend time on soccer. All our money is going to soccer. I would make these broad generalizations, and it got nowhere. Then one day, I did some Excel spreadsheets, and I listed out the expenses, which are facts. I listed out the number of stops I would make in the carpool. It was 17 each time. I listed out, this and that. And when I presented the facts to my family, they were like, whoa. They first realized the cost and toll of this excessiveness when I presented the facts. And so the facts are always your friends because the facts neutralize everything. Facts are not emotional. Facts in and of themselves are not emotional. So lean on the facts when you have a dispute or a conflict, and rather than throw out broad generalizations or conclusions, lean on the facts. The facts will tell the story. And I know that's pretty lawyer-like, but that's what we do in our job, and it seems to work. Strategy 4 is ask questions. You can turn almost any statement into a question. So you can turn a directive into a question, a criticism. You can diffuse power plays with questions. So if someone says, I have an example. If I want to say to someone, you're an absolute loser of a parent, you don't know how to be a parent. I mean, those are pretty heated words, which people will say. You could say, what responsibilities do you feel you have as a parent? What are your priorities as a parent? That shifts the burden to the other person completely. So when you ask questions, it's a strategy to literally shift the burden to the other person. And it's hard. When someone asks you a question, that means you have to answer it. If you can't answer it, that looks bad. So this is one of my best strategies, is just start asking questions. Teenagers, coworkers, whatever, whatever, clients, start asking questions so that the burden is on them to figure out the solution. Okay, I'm running out of time, so I'm not going to do this. Strategy 5 is the powerful apology. It's amazing how few people know how to say I'm sorry. And it's, even if you're just obviously responsible for something, many people can't say I'm sorry. And I'm sorry makes a difference. And I've found with dispute resolution that, I'm sorry validates the other person who feels victimized by whatever. So apologies are extremely powerful for the person giving them. Bullies will think that apologies are weak, and so bullies don't give apologies. That's one of the signs of a bully. And I don't use the word bully lightly. I mean, in the Idaho State Bar, we've had programming on bullies, and bully is a term of art in our world. But bullies don't apologize. That's one of their characteristics. If you can apologize, that's a hugely powerful thing to apologize. And even if it's for something little or something big, apologies for something you've actually done are huge. And it just diffuses conflict. So many people are looking for validation. And in my mediation, the apology is huge. Strategy number 6, change yourself to influence others. So we can't change anyone or control anyone. You can't control anyone, except for maybe your 2-year-old or something. But you can, when people realize they can't control people, they think, all is lost. I can't control that person. But they're missing their leverage, because their leverage is you can always influence someone. They may not admit it, but you can always influence someone by controlling yourself. So if you want to control someone and it's not working, I mean, you shouldn't try it in the first place, but we all do. Then the next best thing is to control yourself creatively think of ways you can act to influence the other person. So an example is, you know, I like to say what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If someone is saying to you, well, you know, you're not putting away enough dishes, you're not doing this and this, you can't really control what that person says about you. But what you can do is you can control yourself and you can start doing the things they're accusing you of. Or if someone is saying, well, you're spending too much money, you know, you can start controlling yourself to influence that person. Maybe you bring in more money. Who knows what you do? But if you focus on yourself and how your actions would change their perception, you've got complete control over yourself. And it's really a good growth opportunity. Most people, when they shift the focus from other people to themselves and how their actions can influence other people, most people feel like, wow, that was great. I can control myself. And I actually changed their behavior by influencing them. Okay, and then the bonus strategy, I have a lot more, but no time. The bonus strategy is the third alternative. Has anyone read the book, The Third Alternative by Stephen Covey? You have, Pat?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Wow. How many? Raise your hands. If you, yeah. The Third Alternative by Stephen. Have you read that, Pat?
Not that one.
You've read that, okay. So the third alternative is brilliant. And I recommend that everyone get this book. Because when you have a dispute, people are polarized in their positions. And it's very hard it becomes a matter of compromise. An example is, let's say you have a family. And the family always goes to McCall over Labor Day weekend. And then one weekend, Labor Day weekend, the 14-year-old daughter says, I don't want to go to McCall, I want to stay with my friends in Boise, right? This happens, and it could be a huge conflict. Well, the either or is, does the 14-year-old go with the family, or does the 14-year-old stay home and the family goes without her? That's how it's set up. The third alternative would say, okay, why not both sides come together and think of a third alternative, something different from either of the other two positions? And that third alternative would actually help both parties grow out of their positions and experience something new and different and probably better, because you take the best of both worlds. So does anyone know what the third alternative would be to that conflict?
Could be.
Could be. Yeah.
Well, one would be is, how would you feel if we invited your friend to come with us?
Exactly. That's exactly it. And so let's say the friend goes with the family. The friend has a new experience learning about this family. Maybe she's never been camping before. The family has a new experience with the friend, you know, and a new bond. So it's a win-win. But, you know, everyone gets to move a little bit out of their comfort zones and experience something new and different. But it's so much easier to do that, to move towards the third alternative than to have the either or. And that's what mediation is all about, at least for me. That's what it's all about. Because when I go into mediation, I'm thinking, well, it's not going to work to have the either or. That hasn't worked. That's why they're here. So you've got to have something win-win. A third alternative has to be win-win, has to be consensual, it has to be voluntary, it has to be good for both parties. And both parties are probably going to move out of their comfort zones to agree to this. It's going to take a little persuasion, but at the end of the day, it's good for everyone, and that's what you want. Yeah.
So when you initially bring the two parties together, what you just gave us right there, I would think would be maybe your opening to them, is that sharing with them what the process is going to be like, moving them out of their comfort zone.
Yep. Mm-hmm. That's what I do. And I also say to them that, you know, to set expectations, no one's going to win. So it's like buying a house. You always pay more than you want to. And as a seller, you never get what you want. And that's the example I use. It's like buying a house. But then after you buy the house and you settle in, or after you sell the house and you got your money, you feel really good. It's just when you're hung up on that one price, it's really hard. And so I that's the example I use for people. I say it's like buying a house. And if both of you doesn't feel great, but feels good enough, then that's a huge success. And then a week later, they always feel great. But in the moment, they want to win. Yeah. Yeah.
So when you talk to them about that third alternative, do they brainstorm together?
Oh, yeah.
Or do you come up with I propose you?
Okay, I can't help myself because I'll get into a conflict and I'll just start thinking, oh, all we need to do is this, this, and this. So I can't help myself. So I will always, and I like to cut to the chase because 8 hours goes like that, 4 hours goes like that. And they're splitting the cost, but still, you know, it's still what, 150 an hour for each one. And so I like to cut to the chase and I say, you know, one thing I was thinking of was, what about this? Would this work for you? And then in that process, you'll find out, well, so-and-so really should apologize to me, or so-and-so really owes me $50,000 for this that we haven't even talked about, or so-and-so did this way back when, and that'll always come up. So I'll start with my vision that always shifts a little bit, but at the end of the day, I'm usually the end result is pretty close to what I envisioned with some other factors built in. Yeah, because I know what should work for the rational person. Yeah.
I was going to say, so if you only take cases that you think you can win, which is obviously a smart thing. So how many
cases
calls are you turning down?
Yeah. Okay. That's a really good question. So there's about 2% of people who come to me. I'm just obviously thinking, this person's crazy. You know, I don't want to deal with them. Just violent, hostile, crazy. Or I can tell by the litigation that there's a totally frivolous lawsuit or someone has committed white collar crime. So I don't know, 2 to 5%. It doesn't happen much, but maybe 5%. Well, some people are just, you just don't want to have anything to do. You know, I fear for my safety, that type of person. But the bully, you know, the bully isn't always dangerous, but the bully reveals him or herself through litigation by completely frivolous. Like I'm involved in a case right now where there is completely frivolous, and the other side, I'm not mediating, I'm an expert witness, and the other side is just, you know, arguing over $300 and spending, you know, $300,000 to argue over 300. Well, I can just take one look at that. I mean, I should have said no, but I'm stuck with this one. But anyway, I could take one look at that and say, someone's off kilter here, right? So it's about 5%, I'd say, maybe. Not that many.
What do you call that? Walking over $1 to pick up a nickel?
I don't know what you call it. Yeah, it's pretty bad. That's the principle of the thing. Someone wants vengeance, someone wants revenge, and there's always some of that, but to that degree is terrible.
It's also a little bit, I want what I want, and no empathy for the other person, and so they're just going to fight for what they want,
Yeah.
regardless of the cost.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I would think it'd be super beneficial to add mediation clause to our contracts. Is there like a suggested like phrase or verbiage or?
Yeah, that I could send something.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I could send.
I would almost like
In fact, I
probate deals too, so it's
okay.
I feel like that would definitely come into play.
I could actually pull it from the Oregon form, which is an Oregon real estate form.
That's what I was gonna do, but
So,
I didn't know if it was...
yeah, we could. Oh, copyright. I'll change the words a little bit.
That'd be awesome.
I guess yeah. I'll change the words a little bit, but I'll send some suggested language. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because then it forces the parties before litigation to sit down and mediate. Mm-hmm.
So key verbiage, I'm assuming, would be like, you know, both parties agree that, and then also, you know, that there's a timeline.
Yeah.
For, you know, for what
Mm-hmm.
that looks like.
And usually it comes down to good faith, because unless you're going to have binding mediation, it's good faith, but both parties agree in good faith to, you know, select a mediator within whatever, put a notice provision in, and
would
things
it
like
also
that.
would it also put you in? I mean, if you were to select, for instance, you as the mediator in that verbiage, that's probably not a good idea considering.
So I would love to do that, but but I probably wouldn't, because it'd be too self-serving. But yeah, you can select any mediator you want. I mean, if none of you have really dealt with mediators, I guess Krista has, but most people don't know many mediators. So it's you can always look at the Supreme Court list of approved mediators and see a little bit about each mediator.
But most of those are family?
No.
Oh, really?
No, like I get my civil cases too from the Supreme Court.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And we put our qualifications. Yeah. I mean, my niche, I don't want to spend too much time talking about it. My niche is definitely that I'm a transactional attorney. So I don't think there's any other mediators in town that I know of who are transactional attorneys. It used to be kind of the saying that, oh yeah, you have to hire this old judge or this old retired litigator, and I've worked with them as an attorney, hiring them as mediators, and I've had enough failures and have been so frustrated, it's like, oh, can't you just do this? That I think even though I am, a slim minority, because I think I literally am the only transactional attorney in town doing mediation, I think there's huge benefits, because to me, I just go straight to the deal. Like, how can we work this out? So I think litigators and judges are much more evaluative than me, and they'll say, you have no case, just give in, or they'll pound and pound and pound. I'm more, okay, let's figure out how we can work this out for both of you. That might be a difference. But there are a lot of good mediators in town, so lots of great ones. So
I guess the other question I would have is probably like RE16 and RE21, that language would come into play. I mean, between buyer and seller, and then also, like say you have two separate buyers that are part of a trust, or excuse me, sellers that are part of a trust.
Mm-hmm.
I personally have one now where they won't talk to each other, so I'm playing, the in between, I guess.
Two sellers who are trustees of a trust won't talk to each other? Oh, God.
One's the daughter of the mother, so yeah, we're getting through it. But I guess where that verbiage would be best placed, maybe would be the other idea there.
Yeah, it'd probably be in the contract, but if you have one party not communicating with each other. Did Krista?
I sit on the forms committee, so there will be email probably in a couple of months coming out for form suggestions for the next go around. New forms come out every January. So it'll be a little bit, but make sure you make the suggestion when Idaho Realtors send that out.
That's a tricky one, because it's not between the two opposing parties.
Right, yeah.
That's a tricky one. I think that'd be hard to build into a form, but you could always suggest it. The thing is, mediation is so flexible. You can always suggest it, and then you have to get both parties to buy into it. But or facilitation.
That would be in the seller's representation agreement.
Yeah, well, that's actually between me and the seller, so that maybe wouldn't apply as much.
I think between two seller trustees. I think you just suggest it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Are there any other questions? Well, you've been great. Thank you for being open to mediation. I appreciate it. If you have any questions, I have follow-up. I have my contact information. Of course, I forgot to bring my business cards. But feel free to email me or get my contact information through Kristen. Yes. And I forgot my cards, of course. This is my New Year's resolution for next year. Remember my cards.
Becky, thank you.
Thank you.
The tips were fantastic. And just understanding the process. Like you said, not a lot of people have been through the mediation process. So understanding how it can create success is really important. So thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity. Yes, and I'm just going to grab welcome. I really appreciate it. Do you have anything that you wanted to build off of? Okay. For anyone who's online who may not have heard, every year Idaho Realtors comes out, they send out an email asking for your suggestions for forms. There's actually a place on the Idaho Realtors website where you can suggest forms changes anytime. So if you ever have an idea like, oh, it would be great to have a mediation clause in the RE21, right? Jump on. Krista, our broker, she sits on the forms committee and is part of that decision-making team. So she's got really good insight into what's happening and
also making suggestions based on your needs as she's working with all of you. So thank you guys so much. We look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks for our next sales meeting, and Happy New Year.
Thank you.